African news update on top Accolade News. The headlines: South Africa's president fires minister after misconduct allegations. Mali court rules against Barrick in employee case. Dangote laments Africa's reliance on imported fuel. Nigeria to borrow over $21 billion. We'll start with the focus in politics. South Africa's president fires minister after misconduct allegations. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has dismissed Higher Education Minister Nobuhle Nkabane following misconduct allegations raised by the Democratic Alliance, a key coalition party. The DA accused her of manipulating board appointment at skill development organizations in favor of ANC allies and misleading Parliament to conceal it. A removal is seen as an effort to ease growing coalition tensions ahead of a critical budget vote this week. The DA has threatened to vote against budget allocations for departments led by ministers under scrutiny, potentially disrupting the passage of the appropriation bill scheduled for Wednesday. Still in politics, Mali court rules against Barrick in employee case. In Mali, a court has denied an appeal from Barrick Gold to free 4 detained employees arrested last November on money laundering charges, deepening a dispute between the Canadian mining firm and the country's military-led government. The ruling comes as tensions rise over new tax laws and state control in Mali's gold sector. Barrick, whose operation in the country had been halted since January, also faces an arrest warrant for its CEO, Mark Bristow. The stand-up threatens a major revenue stream as Mali contributes 14% of Barrick's global gold output. Shifting focus to economy, Dangote laments Africa's reliance on imported fuel. At the West African Refined Fuel Conference in Abuja, Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, raised alarm over the continent's growing dependence on cheap and toxic imported fuels, calling it an economic tragedy. Dangote revealed that Africa spends $90 billion yearly importing refined products despite its massive crude production. He criticized fragmented fuel standards, exorbitant port charges, and the lack of local crude supply, which he said hinder regional trade and domestic refining. He also warned of increasing fuel dumping from Russia and urged African leaders to protect local refineries and harmonize standards. Still in economy, Nigeria to borrow over $21 billion. Nigeria's senators approved President Bola Tinubu's plan to borrow over $21 billion in foreign and domestic loans to fill funding gaps in the 2025 national budget. The borrowing package includes $4 billion in euros, 15 billion yen, and $65 million grant, and an additional $2 billion in dollar-denominated local borrowing. According to Senate Appropriations Chair Solomon Adeola, the move ensures all revenue streams are now in place to fully implement the budget. Funds will be directed towards critical sectors such as infrastructure, healthcare, education, security, and housing, with $3 billion earmarked to upgrade the 2,044-kilometer Eastern Rail Corridor. The House of Representatives is expected to give final approval today. You're watching the African News Update on Top Accolade News. Do stay with us. Still to come. Thanks for staying with us. In international relations, U.S. deportations to Eswatini sparks human rights outcry. Tensions are rising in Eswatini after the U.S. deported 5 convicted criminals accused of violent crimes like child rape and murder to the small African kingdom. The men from 5 different countries were flown into Eswatini under a U.S. third country deportation policy and are now being held in solitary confinement at a high-security prison. Civil society groups and the largest opposition party, Podemo, have condemned the move, calling it a human trafficking disguised as deportation and an insult to Eswatini's sovereignty. Protesters gathered outside the U.S. Embassy demanding transparency a reversal of the deportation, and assurances about the safety of local communities. Human rights advocate says the deal lacks public consultation and could set a dangerous precedent. While Eswatini's government insists the men pose no threat and are being treated like other inmates, critics remain alarmed, especially given the country's authoritarian political system and history of abuse in detention centers. Still in international relations, Africa braces for fallout as UK slashes aid budget by nearly half. The UK government has confirmed sweeping cuts to its foreign aid budget, with children's education and women's health programs in Africa set to suffer the most. The 40% reduction follows a shift in priorities to increase defense spending, but critics warn the cuts could worsen disease, poverty, and conflict in already vulnerable regions. While multilateral groups like the World Bank are shielded, bilateral aid to countries like South Sudan and Somalia may be slashed, drawing sharp criticism from aid organizations who say the world's poorest nations will have to pay the price. Moving to entertainment, Giants of Africa Festival returns to Kigali. Kigali is set to host the 2025 Giants of Africa Festival from July 26th to August 2nd, bringing together 320 young athletes from 20 African countries for a thrilling week of basketball, culture, and empowerment. Founded by NBA executive Masai Ujiri, the festival combines elite training with community impact featuring tournaments, music by Arya Star and The Band, and the unveiling of new courts, all aiming to inspire the next generation of African leaders. Now in sports, Morocco versus Nigeria set for WAFCON final. It's a WAFCON final clash to remember as Morocco sets up a showdown with Nigeria after defeating Ghana 4-2 on penalties in Rabat. The tightly contested semi-final saw Morocco equalize in the second half after Ghana's early lead, pushing the game into extra time before prevailing in the shootout. Nigeria booked their place earlier with a 2-1 victory over South Africa in Casablanca. The final now pits Africa's rising powerhouse Morocco against the Super Falcons, the continent's most decorated women's football team. That concludes our African news updates for today. Stay tuned for more African news and developments. Thanks for joining us. I am Ojoromi Okocha. Connect and engage with us on all our social media handles. Do have a wonderful day.